Light, dark. Chiaro, scuro. Spirit and substance. Shadow and sunlight. 17th century Amsterdam. Lining the canals were townhouses trimmed with gold. Dutch ships anchored in every world port to buy, and ships of all nations harbored in Amsterdam to sell. Her waterways led to all of northern Europe and Germany to the south. Merchants ruled. Commerce with exotic colonies bred a taste for opulence. It flared against the Dutch restraint. It was a golden age. Few houses lacked paintings. Almost everyone wanted a portrait. And for some years, one of the painters most sought after was Rembrandt van Rijn. Known for painterly skills, but also for capturing the inner drama of his subjects, staged in contrasts of light and dark. His own life was cast in extremes of shadow and light. Rembrandt's vivacious wife Saskia died only 8 years after their marriage. He sketched and painted her portrait hundreds of times. As he did his tenderly revered mother. The one-time favorite of a wealthy city turned to the richness and the drama of the New Testament. His models were beggars, people of the streets. Now, his neighbors, fellow players in a universal drama.
With the advantages of the example and instruction which you could have in Europe, you would be a valuable acquisition to the art, and one of the first painters in the world, provided you could receive these aids before it is too late in life, and before your manner and taste were corrupted or fixed by working in your little way at Boston.
An impressive letter to a young painter, and from the distinguished Sir Joshua Reynolds. Could he be right? John Singleton Copley loved his country, but he wanted the richer artistic influences of the old world. Besides, talk of revolution was everywhere. Political contests, he felt, were neither pleasing to an artist nor advantageous to art itself. In 1774, Copley left. It would make him a better painter, he thought. Sad for him. Sad for America. He never returned to his home. At 34, John Singleton Copley was already one of the best and most popular painters in the American colonies. The young American artist, John Trumbull, said of him, an elegant-looking man, dressed in fine maroon cloth, with gold buttons, this dazzling to my unpracticed eye, but his painting, the first I had ever seen deserving the name, riveted, absorbed my attention, and renewed my desires to enter upon such a pursuit. Copley had more work than he could do. Early in his career, he mastered the popular Rococo style, rich texture of laces and lush fabrics, empty faces. But like many pre-revolutionary Americans, Copley could not suppress his belief in individual and personal expression. Taxation without representation. Copley's father-in-law, an English merchant, was importing tea to America. Copley felt he could not speak out against his family, nor could he defend them. Seeking his artistic heritage, he sailed for Europe. It wasn't long before he became part of that heritage, a forerunner in the great Romantic movement. Still, the longer his self-imposed exile in England, the greater his loneliness. His children were his models. The commissions continued. But his greatest masterpieces were painted while memory and imagination were fresh. In his isolation in England, Copley worked harder to be America's first great painter. Poor America, he wrote, yet certain I am she will finally emerge from her present calamity and become a mighty empire. And it is a pleasing reflection that I shall stand amongst the first of the artists that shall have led the country to the knowledge and cultivation of the fine arts.
a likeness at a reasonable price are invited to call soon. Persons wishing a flat picture can have a likeness without shade or shadow at 1/4 price. William Pryor was but one of many self-appointed painters to the New Republic. Some, like him, were prosperous and skilled. Painters by profession, following the ancient tradition of the limner. Others were just men and women who could turn a capable hand to many different tasks. Village artisans who were also farmers, housewives, school teachers, carpenters, jacks of all trade. Or itinerants, travelers, infected with the restless, exuberant spirit of early America. They would paint for lodging and a meal. Many remain unknown. All were academically untrained, but their eyes were sharp. James Bard spent a lifetime painting steamboats in New York. Shipbuilders admired his accuracy, claiming they could lay down the lines of a vessel from one of his paintings. In 1837, a visitor to America was struck by the manner in which the imaginative talent of the people had thrown itself forth into painting. The country seemed to swarm with painters, and they left a pictorial diary of our past. Side views and profiles of children at reduced prices. 1 hour sitting, $2.92, including frame and glass. Fancy portraits, including pets and other details, $25. Ralph Waldo Emerson expressed the spirit of many of these naive painters when he wrote, "I embrace the common. I explore and sit at the feet of the familiar." Give me insight into today, and you may have the antique and future worlds. Still others, poets and painters alike, saw visions of a future world in America. I see 1,000 kingdoms raised, cities and men numerous as sand upon the ocean shore. The Ohio then shall glide by many a town of note, and where the Mississippi stream by forests shaded now runs weeping on, cities shall grow, and states not less in fame than Greece and Rome.
Their days were filled with playing at country pleasures, flirtations on grassy banks, the innocent games of children. A life without care. One last idyllic dream before the nightmare started. France, the 6th and 7th decades of the 18th century, the time of which one survivor said, "He who did not live before the revolution does not know the sweetness of living." Sweet for the privileged few playing out their gallant fantasy, in which pleasure was the highest good, and delighting the eye, the highest art. To capture the spirit of this charmed circle, there was the work of Jean-Honoré Fragonard. Born in the south of France, in the perfume capital of Europe. Exuberant, graceful, charming. His art colored and shaped by an early love affair, not with a woman, but with a country. Italy is the land to love, a visitor has written. There is no place where mere living is such a luxury. Fragonard experienced that luxury and more. The pagan past which lent such richness and vitality to the present. In France, a bitter revolutionary brew was fermenting, but Fragonard had no taste for it, except for the simple life, that elusive ideal, borrowed from the philosophy of Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Also from Rousseau, the inspiration for a tribute to Benjamin Franklin, revolutionary, noble product of the simple life of the New World. From the chivalrous old world, from Orlando Furioso, the Renaissance romance, A fabulous horse leaps over ditch and river and stone and thicket, less like a noble charger than the very wind itself. Fragonard's portraits, too, were said to be done as if the wind had painted them. So swift and light was his touch. In the brushstrokes, a curious anticipation of modern painting. And the expression of an irrepressible spirit. Tenacious, too, surviving the revolution, outliving his own frivolous world, and finally, dying of a stroke while eating ice cream. About the time our Declaration of Independence was signed, Fragonard painted this engrossed young woman. The world did change radically with the birth of revolutions, but the vision that Fragonard captured of the sweetness of life is an ideal that remains.